Elena met Ethan at the weirdest possible moment. She was grabbing some groceries at Trader Joe's when she heard a store manager yelling at some guy about parking in the wrong spot or something. The manager was being such a jerk, his face red, pointing and making a scene in front of everyone. Ethan just stood there, looking embarrassed. Elena didn't know what came over her, but she stepped in and said something like, "The parking signs are confusing. Maybe we could all just take a breath." The manager glared at her but backed off. Ethan looked so relieved, and as they both checked out, he asked if he could buy her coffee as a thank you. They clicked immediately. He was charming, tall, with this crooked smile that made her heart skip. He listened when she talked, or at least seemed to. He remembered little details and texted her good morning every single day. By their third date, she was already falling hard. Her parents, especially her dad, were always super supportive. They helped her get an apartment after college while she was still figuring out her career. Her dad also helped with car payments and some other bills. She always felt a little guilty about it, but they insisted they wanted to help while she got on her feet. Ethan moved in with her, and it seemed fast, but his roommate situation had fallen apart, and it just made sense. Her parents were cautiously optimistic. Her mom, Lila, liked him right away. Her dad, Henry, took longer to warm up, but eventually seemed to accept Ethan. They even played golf together a few times, which was her dad's ultimate sign of approval. Everything seemed perfect until it wasn't. Ethan's parents, Claire and Victor, started coming around more often. They lived about an hour away and would drop by for dinner or Sunday brunch. Claire was always complimenting the apartment or Elena's cooking or whatever. Victor was quieter but polite enough. They were fine, she guessed, but something about them always felt off, like they were performing instead of just being themselves. During one of those visits, Clara got teary, looking around the living room and said, "You have such a warm atmosphere here. It's been so long since we felt like a family." Victor nodded and added, "Our Ethan is golden. We hope you two stay together a long time." It felt weirdly intense, but Elena smiled and thanked them. Looking back, there were signs she missed little comments Ethan would make about her dad's generosity, or jokes about how he'd hit the jackpot with her, the way he'd text his parents right after they got anything new for the apartment, how he never seemed to be actively looking for better job opportunities, even though he was always talking about his big plans. She started noticing patterns. Whenever they were around, her parents and the topic of money or careers came up, Ethan would either go quiet or quickly change the subject. If her dad mentioned his business, Ethan would suddenly become super interested, asking detailed questions. When they were alone later, he'd make these small digs about her dad being old money or set in his ways. One night, while they were scrolling through Instagram together, he saw a photo of his ex and muttered, "She had the looks, but not the stability." Elena asked what he meant. He just kissed her forehead and said, "You're the whole package." She remembered feeling strange about it. After that, she started paying more attention. She noticed he was on his phone a lot, smiling at texts, but would put the phone face down if she came near. Once, she caught a glimpse of him messaging someone and saying, "Things are looking up financially." When she asked, he said it was just a buddy talking about a new job. She wanted to believe him. 3 times, she overheard snippets of phone conversations with his mom, things like, "It's comfortable," or "I'm just holding on for now." Each time, when he saw her, he'd quickly switch the topic, suddenly talking loudly about weekend plans or what to have for dinner. After the 3rd time, she started recording random conversations when he was on the phone. She knew it sounded crazy and invasive, but something felt wrong. She needed to know if she was being paranoid or if her instincts were right. Mostly, she caught nothing, just normal chats about sports or plans with friends. Then came that dinner at his parents' house. They invited her and Ethan over for a fancy meal, steaks, salads, wine, everything. Clara kept touching her arm and saying how happy they were that Ethan had found someone so supportive. Victor asked questions about her dad's business, which felt strange since they'd already met him several times. After dinner, Elena offered to cut the pie Clara had baked. She went to the kitchen, leaving her phone on the dining table. Before she walked off, she secretly hit record on her voice memo app. She just needed to know. The kitchen and dining room were separated by a half wall, so she could hear them, but they couldn't see her. She stood there, slicing pie, when she heard Ethan laugh. That same laugh he used when he was trying to impress someone. His voice got lower, but she could still hear every word. "She's convenient," he said. "Her dad's money keeps me comfortable while I figure things out." Her hands froze on the knife. She might have stopped breathing for a second. He went on, I'll stick around long enough to squeeze what I can out of her, then I'll find someone worth showing off." She heard Victor snort, like he was amused. Then Clara's voice, quieter but clear, said, "Just don't get her pregnant, Ethan." "God, no. Can you imagine being tied to her family forever? Her dad is an arrogant old goat. If it wasn't for the money, I wouldn't even say hello to him." She stood there, holding the knife, her whole body just burning. She wanted to scream or throw something or walk out and never come back. But instead, she just kept cutting the pie, slice by slice, perfect triangles. She didn't even remember thinking about it. She just did it. She walked back into the dining room, plates in hand, and smiled. She set the pie down, served each of them a slice, and sat in her chair. Ethan put his arm around her and kissed her cheek. She didn't flinch. She just smiled and asked Clara about her garden. The rest of the evening was a blur. She remembered laughing at their jokes, helping clean up, and kissing Ethan in the car on the way home. She remembered grabbing her phone from the table before they left. She remembered opening the door to their apartment, the apartment her parents were paying for, and watching him kick off his shoes and flop on the couch like everything was normal. Because for him, it was. She didn't confront him that night or the next day or the day after that. She just watched him, watched how he'd check her dad's social media accounts when he thought she wasn't looking, noticed how he'd suggest they visit her parents when their fridge was getting empty, saw how he'd mention his student loans when her dad was around. She barely slept. She kept replaying the recording, thinking maybe she had misheard or misunderstood, but no. His words were crystal clear. "She's convenient. Her dad's money keeps me comfortable. I'll find someone worth showing off." She stopped eating much, stopped talking unless she needed to. She'd lock herself in the bathroom and just sit on the floor, trying to figure out what to do. Ethan noticed something was off, but seemed annoyed rather than concerned. He kept asking if she was on her period or just being dramatic. It was her mom, Lila, who finally broke through. She stopped by unexpectedly one afternoon when Ethan was out with friends. She took one look at her and sat her down at the kitchen table. "What's going on with you and Ethan? Is he behaving normally?" she asked, her eyes searching hers. Elena wasn't crying, she was past crying. "I just feel empty. Do you want to hear it?" she asked. "Yes," her mom said. "Of course. Just don't interrupt, okay?" She pulled out her phone, opened the voice memo app, and hit play. They sat in silence as Ethan's voice filled the kitchen. "She's convenient. Her dad's money keeps me comfortable." Her mom's face went completely still. By the time the recording reached "arrogant old goat," she was trembling. When it ended, she didn't speak for what felt like forever. Then she stood up, walked to the hallway, and grabbed her coat. "Don't let him come back here tonight," she said. "Where are you going?" Elena asked. "To your father. Wait here." She sat alone in the kitchen after her mom left. Her phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. "Grabbing drinks with the guys. Be back late. Don't wait up." She didn't respond. Instead, she opened her laptop and started making a list. After her parents showed up, she had never seen her dad that quiet before. He was usually the type to fill silences, telling dad jokes, asking questions, making small talk. But when he walked through her door that night, he just nodded at her. Her mom was right behind him, her hand on his back, like she was steadying him. Her mom told him she had something he needed to hear. Elena felt her stomach twist as she pulled out her phone again. Part of her wanted to back out, to say never mind and pretend everything was fine, because playing that recording meant things would change forever. But she hit play anyway. Watching her dad listen to Ethan's voice she didn't even know how to describe it. At first, his face didn't change at all. He just stared at her phone on the table, listening to Ethan laugh about how she was convenient. When Ethan called him an arrogant old goat, she saw something flicker in her dad's eyes. He didn't explode like she thought he might. He just sat there for a long moment after the recording ended, then reached across the table and took her hand. He asked if she was okay, not what she was going to do or how this happened, but if she was okay. She wasn't expecting that question. To be honest, she had been so focused on the betrayal and what to do next that she hadn't really thought about whether she was okay, and the answer was no. She wasn't. She started crying then, really crying, for the first time since she had heard the recording. Her dad squeezed her hand and just let her cry. Her mom made tea, which was her solution to everything. When she finally calmed down, her dad asked when the recording was from. She told him it had been a week. He nodded, like that made sense, then asked where Ethan was now. She checked her phone, 3 more texts from him. "Getting another round? Mike says hi. Don't wait up, babe." So normal, so oblivious. She told her dad Ethan was out drinking with friends and wouldn't be back for hours. That's when her dad's demeanor changed. He straightened up in his chair and asked if she had her laptop. She grabbed it from the couch, where she had left it open with her what-to-do list still on the screen. He glanced at it and actually smiled a little. Turns out, they had been thinking along the same lines. They spent the next 2 hours making a plan, concrete steps, not just angry reactions. Her dad was methodical, making his own list in the Notes app on his phone. It was strange to Elena. She had expected rage, but instead got this calm, focused problem-solving that was somehow more intense than any shouting could have been. First on the list was the apartment. Her dad had co-signed the lease and was paying the rent. He called the property management company right there at her table. He explained that he needed to terminate the current lease and sign a new one in just her name. The leasing agent tried to explain that there would be fees and paperwork, but he cut her off. "I'll pay whatever fees are necessary," he told her. "I need this done immediately." When the agent hesitated, he added that he could come to the office first thing tomorrow morning if that would help speed things up. Suddenly, she became much more accommodating. Next was the car. Ethan had been driving her car, the one her dad was helping pay for. Her dad made another call, this time to their insurance agent. He removed Ethan from her policy, effective immediately. Then he logged into his Progressive app and changed the payment information so it would come from her account instead of his. He explained that he'd still help her with the cost, but the account needed to be fully in her name. While her dad worked on the financial stuff, her mom helped her make a list of everything in the apartment that belonged to Ethan. It wasn't much some clothes, his gaming setup, toiletries. Most of the furniture and kitchenware were hers, or things they had bought together with money from her parents. She remembered something else. Ethan's sister, Sophia, worked for her dad's company. She had been hired right after Ethan had casually mentioned to her dad that his sister was looking for a new opportunity. Her dad had interviewed Sophia as a favor to Elena and given her a position. She hesitated to bring it up. It felt petty somehow, but her mom noticed her typing and deleting something on her laptop. When she finally told them about Sophia, her dad's expression hardened. He picked up his phone again. He didn't fire Sophia on the spot. He wasn't that kind of person, but he did send an email to HR, asking them to review Sophia's position as part of an upcoming restructuring. He made it clear that while she shouldn't be fired without cause, her position should be considered non-essential if cuts needed to be made. It sounded cold when Elena thought about it, but to be honest, Sophia had been riding on her connection to her and her dad. She was constantly late, took extra long lunches, and was mediocre at her job at best. The only reason she hadn't been put on a performance plan already was because of Ethan. Around midnight, they moved on to the last item, the confrontation. Her dad wanted to call Ethan's parents right then, but her mom suggested they wait until morning. Elena agreed she was exhausted, and they all needed to be clear-headed for that conversation. Her dad reluctantly agreed, but insisted on staying the night. Her mom went home to get their overnight bags while her dad helped her change the locks. Thankfully, their building had those electronic keypad locks, so all they had to do was reset the code through the apartment's app. She felt a weight lift as they deleted Ethan's access. That night, she slept on the couch, giving her parents the bedroom. She didn't want to sleep in the bed she had shared with him. Around 3 a.m, her phone started blowing up with texts. "Door code isn't working, Elena. What the hell? Are you serious right now? Let me in. It's freezing. Answer your phone." She put her phone on silent and turned it face down on the coffee table. For the first time in a week, she slept deeply. In the morning, her dad made pancakes like it was just another Saturday. They ate at the kitchen table, checking their phones and making small talk about the weather. It felt surreal, like they were pretending to be normal. Ethan had finally stopped texting around 5 a.m. Her guess was he crashed at a friend's place. Around 10, her dad said it was time to call Ethan's parents. She felt her stomach clench again. Her mom squeezed her shoulder and reminded her that she hadn't done anything wrong. She wasn't the one who needed to feel ashamed. Her dad set up his phone for a FaceTime call. After 3 rings, Clara's face appeared on the screen. She looked confused at first, then forced a bright smile when she recognized them. Elena could see Victor in the background, reading a newspaper. Clara's hello was cheerful until she saw their expressions. She called Victor over, her smile faltering. He joined her on screen, frowning slightly. Her dad didn't waste time with pleasantries. He simply asked if they wanted to hear something interesting, then played the recording. Watching their faces change as they listened to their own voices was something else. Clara's hand flew to her mouth. Victor's frown deepened. Neither of them looked surprised by what Ethan was saying, only that they had been caught saying it. When the recording ended, Clara immediately started making excuses. "It was just talk," she insisted. "Ethan didn't mean any of it. They were just joking around." Victor tried to look stern and disappointed, like he was also hearing this for the first time. Her dad let them ramble for about 30 seconds before he cut them off. He laid out exactly what was happening. Ethan was being removed from the apartment lease. His access to the car was revoked, and all financial support was ending immediately. Sophia's position at the company was under review. Clara's face crumpled. She turned to Elena, all teary-eyed, begging her to reconsider. "Don't you know how much Ethan loves you?" she said. "Weren't you planning a future together? Everyone says things they don't mean sometimes." Elena just stared back at her, the woman who had smiled to her face while laughing behind her back, the woman who had told her son not to get her pregnant because it would tie him to her family, the same woman who had sat at her table and eaten her food while thinking she wasn't good enough for her son. Her mom leaned into the frame then, told Clara to close her mouth. No one was smiling now. She said goodbye. Her dad ended the call before they could respond. The three of them sat in silence for a moment. Then her dad's phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. "Where is she? Why can't I get into the apartment? What the hell is going on?" Her dad typed out a response, showed it to her for approval, then sent it. "Elena knows everything. Your things will be packed and left with the building manager. Don't contact her again." They spent the next few hours packing up Ethan's stuff. It was strange, handling his things, knowing what she knew. Now his favorite hoodie that she used to sleep in when he was away, the coffee mug she bought him for Christmas, the framed photo of them from last summer's beach trip. All of it felt contaminated somehow. She and her mom had just finished taping up the last box when they heard shouting from outside. She looked out her second-floor window to see Ethan on the front steps of the building, buzzing her apartment over and over. He looked like hell, rumpled clothes, messy hair, red-faced with anger or alcohol or both. Her dad went to the window and looked down. When Ethan spotted him, he started yelling louder. "What right do you have to lock me out? This is my home too." Her dad just shook his head and closed the blinds. The buzzing continued for almost 20 minutes, then it stopped. She peered through the blinds and saw Ethan sitting on the steps, head in his hands. Part of her, a small, stupid part, felt bad for him, but then she remembered. She's convenient, her dad's money keeps me comfortable, I'll find someone worth showing off. Around 4 in the afternoon, her dad loaded Ethan's boxes into his car and took them to the building manager's office, as they had arranged. She and her mom stayed in the apartment, jumping at every noise. They ordered pizza for dinner, but barely ate. The reality of what was happening had finally hit her. 2 years of her life had been a lie. Just after 8, the buzzer rang again. She checked the security camera feed on her phone. Ethan was back, looking even worse than before. This time, she decided to answer the intercom. His voice was slurred as he begged her to let him up. They needed to talk, he insisted. There had been a misunderstanding. She didn't respond right away, and he got angrier. Did she really trust her parents more than him? Was she that much of a daddy's girl? Was she seriously throwing away 2 years over one stupid conversation? She took a deep breath and finally spoke. She told him he had called her convenient, that he planned to use her and then leave her for someone worth showing off, that he and his parents had laughed about it together. There was a long silence, then his voice changed completely. He sounded sober suddenly and calculated. He asked if she had been recording him, if she knew that was illegal in their state without consent, if she understood she could get in trouble for that. Her dad took the phone from her then. He told Ethan very clearly that if he didn't leave immediately, they would call the police, that they had security footage of him harassing her, that he had exactly 10 minutes to get off the property. Ethan started shouting again, but her dad ended the call. Her mom called the building security while she and her dad watched the camera feed. After a few minutes, 2 security guards approached Ethan. There was some arguing, some gesturing, but eventually they escorted him off the property. They spent that night jumping at every sound. Her dad slept on the couch while her mom stayed with her in her room. She kept checking the security feed, half expecting to see Ethan trying to break in, but the night passed quietly. In the morning, they finalized the new lease at the property management office. The car insurance was updated, her bank accounts were secured. She changed all her passwords and removed Ethan from her Netflix, Spotify, and Amazon accounts. It was like erasing him from her digital life, one login at a time. The property manager confirmed that Ethan had picked up his boxes. The security team had been notified not to allow him into the building without her explicit permission. Her parents helped her rearrange the furniture, as if changing the layout could somehow erase the memory of him in that space. They stayed one more night, then had to get back to their own lives. Her mom hugged her for a long time at the door. Her dad looked like he wanted to say something profound, but in the end, he just kissed her forehead and told her to call them anytime, day or night. And then she was alone, really alone for the first time in almost 2 years. The apartment felt too big, too quiet. She wandered from room to room, touching things, trying to reclaim her space. She ordered takeout and ate it on the floor of the living room because sitting at the kitchen table felt too normal, too much like before. Her phone buzzed around midnight, a text from a number she didn't recognize. "This isn't over. You've made a huge mistake." She knew it was Ethan. She didn't respond. She just blocked the number and turned off her phone. Elena lay awake until dawn, listening for footsteps that never came. It had been exactly 2 weeks since everything fell apart, and honestly, she was exhausted. The constant texts from unknown numbers, the voicemails, the Instagram messages from fake accounts, it was like dealing with a ghost that refused to leave her alone. She woke up one morning to 17 missed calls from different numbers between 2 and 6 in the morning. She had blocked so many numbers at that point that her block list was longer than her contact list. Ethan clearly kept using those temporary number apps or borrowing phones from friends. At first, she had listened to the voicemails, thinking maybe he'd apologize in a way that felt real, but they just kept getting worse. The first few were what she expected. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. I was just trying to impress my parents. Please call me back." Then they started getting angry. "How could you do this to me? Do you know how much this is hurting me?" By day 4, the voicemails turned manipulative. "Remember when I took care of you when you had the flu? Remember our trip to the beach?" Now they bounced between threatening and pathetically sad. Yesterday's voicemail was a gem. He said she'd ruined his life, that his sister lost her job because of her, that his parents were disappointed in him, and he was practically homeless. Then, not 20 minutes later, another voicemail. "I miss you so much. I can't sleep. I just want to talk." What was weirder was that she still caught herself almost responding. Her thumb would hover over the keyboard, and she had to physically put her phone down. 2 years was a long time. There were moments when she missed the person she thought he was before she knew the truth. But then she would play the recording again in her head. "Her dad's money keeps me comfortable. I'll find someone worth showing off. Just don't get her pregnant." Her friend Ava came over yesterday. She had been checking on Elena every couple of days, which she appreciated more than she could say. They were scrolling through TikTok on the couch when Elena's phone buzzed with a text from another unknown number. She ignored it, but Ava noticed. "What's going on?" Ava asked. Elena hadn't told any of their mutual friends the full story, yet she had just said she and Ethan broke up, and it was messy, but sitting there with Ava, she decided to show her the recording. She watched Ava's face change as she listened, confusion, then shock, then a cold anger Elena had never seen on her before. When it ended, Ava was quiet for a long time. Then she said something that made Elena's stomach drop. Ethan had texted her 3 days ago, asked if she'd seen Elena, said he was worried, said Elena was acting unstable and had made up some crazy story about him. Ava had been vague in her reply because she wasn't sure what was happening, but now she understood. She pulled out her phone and showed Elena the thread. It was worse than she thought. He had told Ava that Elena was having some kind of breakdown, that her parents were enabling it, that he was desperate to help but couldn't reach her. He even suggested they should stage some kind of intervention. Elena felt physically ill reading it. He was trying to gaslight her friends, trying to make her look crazy. Ava immediately started texting others in their circle to warn them. While she was doing that, Elena checked her email. She found messages from Ethan there too, dating back several days. She had been so focused on blocking him on her phone that she hadn't thought to check her email. Some of the emails had attachments, photos of them together, screenshots of old texts she had sent him, even a video from last Christmas where she was opening the necklace he gave her and looking so happy. It felt like emotional blackmail, like he was saying, "Look how good we were together. Look what you're throwing away." She deleted all of them and updated her email filters to send anything from him straight to trash. That night, after Ava left, Elena had trouble sleeping. Every little noise made her jump. She kept checking the locks on her door. Around 2 in the morning, she started scrolling through old texts between them, looking for signs she had missed. There were so many comments about her dad's business, questions about her trust fund, suggestions that she ask her parents for things he wanted. How had she been so blind? The next morning, she woke up to knocking not on her door, but on her neighbor's. She peeked through the peephole and saw Ethan standing there, surprisingly put together in a button-down shirt she had bought him for his birthday. He was holding coffee and a bag from the bakery she loved. Her neighbor Marcus opened his door looking confused. Elena couldn't hear everything, but Ethan was saying something about surprising her, that he had forgotten his key. Thankfully, Marcus was suspicious by nature. "Why don't you just call her?" he asked. Ethan stammered, "I wanted it to be a surprise." Marcus said he'd check with her first and closed the door. A minute later, Elena's phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Hey, should I let some guy named Ethan in?" She texted back quickly, "Absolutely not. We broke up. He's not welcome." Marcus replied with a thumbs-up emoji. Elena watched through the peephole as Marcus went back out and told Ethan firmly that she didn't want to see him. Ethan's fake, pleasant smile dropped instantly. He tried to argue, raising his voice, but Marcus, who was 6'4" and worked out regularly, just crossed his arms and stared down at him. Eventually, Ethan gave up and left. Elena texted Marcus, "Thank you!" with about 15 exclamation points. He responded, "Guy gave me bad vibes. Let me know if you need anything." Elena smiled to herself and made a mental note to bake Marcus some cookies as a proper thank you. That afternoon, Elena was on a Zoom call for work when her buzzer rang. The building had a camera system, so she checked the feed on her phone. It was Clara, Ethan's mom, standing there with what looked like a gift basket. She ignored it. 5 minutes later, it rang again and again and again. Eventually, she pressed the talk button and asked what she wanted. Clara sounded sickeningly sweet as she said she just wanted to talk woman to woman, that there had been a terrible misunderstanding, that Ethan was devastated. Couldn't Elena give him a chance to explain? Elena told her that she had heard everything she needed to hear on that recording. Clara immediately switched tactics. Her voice hardened as she asked if Elena understood that recording people without consent was illegal in their state, that they could press charges if they wanted to. Elena almost laughed. She told her to go ahead and try. The recording was made in their house during a dinner they had invited her to. She hadn't shared it publicly or used it for blackmail. She'd simply played it for her parents and a couple of close friends to explain why she was ending the relationship. Then she hung up and watched through the security feed as Clara stood there for another 10 minutes before finally leaving the gift basket by the door and walking away. The building manager texted her later to say they'd removed an abandoned package from her doorway. She thanked them and asked them to throw it away. That evening, her dad called to check in. He tried to sound casual, but she could tell he was worried. He mentioned that Ethan had shown up at his office that day asking to speak with him. Security had escorted him out, but not before he made a scene in the lobby, shouting that her dad had ruined his life and turned Elena against him. She felt terrible this was affecting her dad's business now, but he assured her it wasn't a big deal, that security had handled it and she shouldn't worry. Still, she could hear the tension in his voice. This was escalating in ways none of them had expected. The next day, Saturday, she decided to get out of the apartment. She'd been basically hiding inside for days, and she needed fresh air. She went to this little coffee shop about 3 blocks away, found a corner table, and just sat with her book, trying to feel normal for an hour. She was halfway through her latte when she got that feeling, the one where you just know someone's watching you. She looked up and saw Sophia, Ethan's sister, standing by the counter staring at her. Their eyes met for a second. She thought Sophia might come over and make a scene. Instead, she just gave her this cold look and walked out. Elena stayed another 15 minutes, but her hands were shaking so badly she couldn't focus on her book. When she finally left, she took a different route home, constantly looking over her shoulder. It felt ridiculous, like she was the wrong party here, but she still felt like she was the one who had to hide. When she got back to her apartment, her mom was waiting in the lobby. She brought groceries and dinner, saying she just wanted to check on her in person. They spent the evening watching Netflix and not talking about Ethan, which was exactly what Elena needed. Her mom stayed over, sleeping on the couch. Around midnight, Elena's phone started blowing up again, more unknown numbers, more texts, varying between apologetic and angry. She silenced it and tried to sleep. In the morning, she and her mom were having coffee when someone started pounding on the door, not knocking, pounding, like they were trying to break it down. She checked the peephole and saw Ethan, looking disheveled and angry. He was shouting her name, demanding she open the door, saying he knew she was in there. Her mom immediately called building security while Elena stood frozen, watching him through the peephole. He started kicking the door, each thud making her jump. She found her voice and told him to leave, that security was on the way. He laughed, actually laughed. He said he just wanted to talk, that if she just listened to him for 5 minutes, he could explain everything. She asked what there was to explain. Did he deny saying those things? There was a pause, then more pounding. He wasn't denying it. He was just angry he'd been caught. Security arrived a few minutes later, two guys who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. She could hear them telling Ethan he needed to leave. There was some scuffling in the hallway, raised voices. She and her mom stood in the kitchen, not speaking, just listening. Finally, it went quiet. Her phone buzzed with a text from the security team saying they'd removed him from the building and called the police because he'd become physical, apparently. He'd shoved one of the guards when they tried to escort him out. She and her mom just looked at each other. This was getting dangerous. Her mom suggested she come stay with them for a while, but that felt like letting him win somehow. This was her home. She didn't want to be chased out of it. Instead, she finally did what she should have done days ago. She filed for a restraining order. The process was surprisingly straightforward. She had the recording, security footage of multiple incidents, text messages, emails, and witnesses. Her mom stayed another night, and her dad came over the next day to install one of those Ring doorbell cameras as extra security. They were worried, and honestly, so was she. This wasn't the Ethan she thought she knew, or maybe it was, and she just hadn't seen it before. 4 days passed quietly, no texts, no calls, no unexpected visitors. She started to relax a little, to feel like maybe it was over. She went to work, stopped at the grocery store on the way home, normal, everyday things. She even went to dinner with Ava and some other friends, though she was careful not to post anything on social media about where they were going. Then yesterday, she came home to find a manila envelope that had been slipped under her door, no name, no address, just a blank envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter from Ethan, 12 pages long, detailing everything he claimed to love about her, every memory he cherished, every plan he'd had for their future. The last page was different. The handwriting got messier, more aggressive. He wrote that if he couldn't have her, he'd make sure no one would want her, that he had videos of her that would be embarrassing if they got out, that he knew things about her dad's business that could cause problems. Elena felt sick reading it. There were no compromising videos, they had never made any, but the threat itself felt violating. And whatever he thought he knew about her dad's business was probably either made up or misunderstood. Still, the fact that he had resorted to threats made her uneasy. She called her dad, then the police. They took the letter as evidence of a restraining order violation. The officer who came seemed bored, like it was just another routine case, but she took Elena's statement and said they would look into it. Elena wasn't confident anything would happen. Around 3 a.m, she heard a noise from her balcony. Her apartment was on the 2nd floor, and the balcony connected to a fire escape. She froze, listening, then heard another sound, like someone testing the sliding door. She quickly called 911, whispering into the phone. The dispatcher told her, "Lock yourself in the bathroom while officers respond." Elena grabbed her phone and keys and did what she was told, heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her throat. Through the bathroom door, she heard her sliding door open, then footsteps in her living room, someone softly calling her name Ethan. She didn't remember much of what happened next. The police arrived quickly. She heard shouting, a crash like furniture being knocked over. When they finally knocked on the bathroom door, telling her it was safe to come out, she was shaking so badly she could barely stand. Ethan had been arrested for breaking and entering, violating the restraining order, and resisting arrest. One of the officers told her he appeared to be intoxicated and had become combative when they tried to handcuff him. He had knocked over her coffee table, breaking the glass top and several framed photos. She spent the rest of the night at her parents' house. In the morning, she received a call. Ethan had been released on bail but was ordered to wear an ankle monitor and stay at least 500 feet away from her, her apartment, and her workplace. If he violated those terms, he would be arrested again immediately. After that call, Elena sat in her childhood bedroom and finally broke down. Not delicate tears, but ugly, gasping sobs that left her exhausted. Her mom came in and just held her while she cried. When she finally calmed down, her mom gently asked, "What do you want to do next? Do you want to move to a new apartment? Do you want to press more charges?" Elena didn't have answers. She still didn't. She was writing this from her parents' guest room, surrounded by childhood stuffed animals and high school trophies. She felt like a scared little girl and an angry woman who had been pushed too far, all at once. The police had called that afternoon. Ethan had violated the terms of his release by removing his ankle monitor. They were looking for him, but so far hadn't located him. They advised her to stay somewhere he wouldn't think to look, just as a precaution. So that was where things stood. Elena was hiding in her parents' house while the police searched for her ex-boyfriend, who had broken into her apartment after threatening to release non-existent videos of her, all because she had discovered he was using her for her dad's money. She kept thinking about that moment in the kitchen, listening to him laugh about how convenient she was, how she had just cut the pie, smiled, and served dessert like nothing was wrong. She wished she had confronted him then and there. She wished she had thrown the pie in his face and walked out. She wished she had never met him at all, but it was too late for wishes now. Now she just needed to figure out what happened next.